So, hi, David. Hi, Reggie. How are you guys doing?
Hey Brett, good to see you.
Nice to see you. Reggie, how are you?
I'm good. We're suffering a little technical difficulties on my end, but other than that, we're good.
Tell us, where are you? And yeah, tell us where you're at and how you're doing and what's going on in quarantine with you.
Well, I have been quarantining at home for all this time, which for me isn't a major problem since I retired from Disney a number of years ago. I don't have office responsibilities that I need to get to, and I do all my work from home anyway. So I'm here working from home. My wife is also working from home, so we're often competing for office space and phone time and volume levels. As she's on a conference call, I'll be on a conference call, and we have to make sure we're separated enough so that if we get excited, it doesn't interrupt the other.
Yes.
Beyond that, it's not too bad. I'm in Los Angeles, so it's not a terrible situation, all things considered.
Well, that's good to hear.
So Reggie, you're the president of the board of the Pasadena Symphony and Pops, and it's so wonderful to work with you. You've just got a great personality, a terrific leadership style. But perhaps you could just outline for everybody what the president of a board does for a symphony.
You know, in our case and in my case, I'll be really honest. I look at all leadership situations the same. What I do for the board is essentially, I just try to keep us all moving in the same direction. We have such an outstanding board, and I've actually been fortunate my entire professional life to work with really talented, smart people. When you work with good people, you don't have to do a lot of directing. You just make sure that everybody understands the direction of the organization. In our case, the direction of our organization is to make sure we put out a great product, that we take care of our musicians, and that we remain, and this is the biggest issue for all nonprofits, is that we remain financially viable. Nonprofit organizations are always fighting that, and particularly in the arts. So my main goal is with all boards of directors and leading this board, is to make sure that we maintain our financial responsibilities. It is the board that generates donors, that generate funds, that keep the organization alive. And so for me, like I said, we have a great board. It's just making sure that everybody is pointed in the same direction. We know we have a really great staff. Lora Unger, our CEO, is absolutely fabulous. She's one of the best in the business. So she has set up the structure for the right kinds of committees. We have a committee that's devoted specifically to generating funds and generating opportunities to create funds. So that committee, we have committees that deal strictly with personnel issues, things like that. So it's just a matter of keeping us all focused on the main goal, putting out a good product, making sure that our musicians are satisfied, comfortable, and happy, and capable, and that the organization is financially healthy. So those are the main things that I'm interested in doing, and because we have a great board, a really fantastic music director in David, and a great partner and music director for our pops in Michael Feinstein, it's if I pretty much get out of the way of the talented people, things work really well.
Now, how many years do you train as vice president, and then how many years do you serve in the leadership role?
Well, the way our organization is set up, the president serves a 2-year term, and during that period, we have an executive vice president who functions in that capacity. And then the plan is that person then is part of the succession. If all things go well, that person is the person that will then become the president for the next term. And then you have another executive vice president that you elect, and that person. So that there's a 4-year period of consistency, 2 years for the president and 2 years with the executive vice president, who is working very closely with the president and with the executive leadership of the board and of the staff, so that when they move in, you've got a nice consistent handoff of power and responsibility.
No big surprises.
Yeah.
Reggie, can you talk a little bit about those challenges of fundraising, maybe before the COVID drama and now what's going to change?
Well, boy, Lora should be here for this. Before,
we'll get her too.
Before the COVID issue, we were really on an upswing. Our organization had gone through some tough times just because of transition. Many years ago, there were two separate orchestras. There was the Pasadena Symphony and there was the Pasadena Pops. When we combined the organizations, there was an understandable change in focus, and we had to sort of reinvent ourselves, and that caused us to stumble a little bit. And then we were hit with the big issue of the 2008 drama that affected finances for the entire country, and that sent us for a major loop, just because everyone was suffering. For all nonprofits, it was tough, but for nonprofits in the arts area, it was even more tough. But thanks to Lora's leadership and our previous CEO, Paul Jansdunick, we were able to really get the organization pointed in the right direction, and our fundraising became a very slow and gradual plod towards success. But it was based on sound principle. We were very careful to watch all of our spending and to put out a product that was reasonable for the money that we were bringing in. What that shows to donors is that you're a responsible organization. People will not give money to any organization that is poorly run. If they see that the organization is run responsibly, is run with an eye toward the goal, and our goal was always to present music to our community, the Pasadena and expanded community. If they see that you're doing that, then the community will support you. But they have to see that you're being well run and that you're being responsible with the money that they're going to give you,
right,
that you're asking for.
Reggie, tell us what attracted you to being involved on the board in the first place. You've obviously got a musical background in the movie industry.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I was first involved with the board, it was because of their youth outreach. I've always been interested in anything that reaches out to involve any kids in music, particularly in underserved areas. And the reason that's so important to me is because I would not be here were it not for a public school music education project. I can remember the three most important people in my life was the first music teacher I had in elementary school, a lady named Miss Broussard. She introduced me to choir first and then to playing violin. I went from playing violin in elementary school to playing at Fauché Junior High School that had a great music program. Again, a public school, and the leader of that music program was Mrs. Bicknell. And again, she was known throughout the state for her ability, and the impact she had on my life was just amazing. And then into high school, there was a Mr. Fisher. Those three teachers in a public school setting did more to set me on a path of understanding and loving music. And there was, in my world, there was absolutely no thought of being a professional musician. It was simply that they exposed me to music that I could appreciate. So that's what got me started. And when I was introduced to the Pasadena Pops, it was because they had a really robust program that assisted children. And that was, I was sold right then and there. I was sold.
That's fantastic. And we'll have Lora talk about that educational program when she gets on.
Hey,
Welcome,
Brett.
Lora.
Welcome. Good to see you, David.
So we've been talking a little bit about Reggie's responsibilities as the president of the board. And we were just actually sort of in mid-flight, he was describing his relationship to the orchestra through education. And at some point, we'd love you to talk about what we do as an inspirer in the community. But Reggie, what were you talking about a second ago?
I was just briefly explaining what I did at Disney.
That's right.
Which I don't know if it's interesting or not, but I did it for a really long time.
So hang on a second. Let me just start that by saying, so Reggie, what was it you did at Disney?
What I did at Disney, which is to me in a lot of ways uninteresting, but it was a great career though. What I did at Disney, I was the vice president of music production, and I was their in-house musician contractor. Now, a musician contractor is essentially the person that hires the musicians for the film and television productions. So I had a pretty full plate. We had a TV animation division, live action TV, feature animation, and live action feature. I didn't do all the films because we generally, in our business today, we allow composers to work with their team if they have a team, their own contractor, their own copyists, their own orchestrators. In cases when you're working with younger composers or composers that don't necessarily have a team, I would be the person that handled those projects. So I was the contractor on a number of films for Disney. I think my first picture for Disney, first motion picture, was a movie called Captain Ron, which was a lot of fun. And from that, I did Lion King and, more pictures than I can really count, to be honest. And television shows all the way back, way past Home Improvement, through Carol and Company, Lost, Alias, just again, more stuff than I can even recount. And I was responsible, in addition to putting the orchestras together as a contractor and as in my responsibility as the vice president of production, was in making sure that all the union rules were followed, that we tracked everything. When any of this product is reused, it has to be done under the correct union conditions and payments. So it was a pretty dynamic job that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work too.
Oh, I can imagine. So Brett, if you were trying to find out about how the orchestra functions and how these different constituencies work together, what would your questions be?
Oh my gosh.
As a musician?
As a musician, that's an interesting question. I guess for me, finding out some of the details of the inner workings, like what we were just talking about, I think it's fascinating. Because so many times we just come and go as musicians, and we don't, first of all, appreciate the people that are putting this thing on. That's for sure. Usually we're just annoyed with the conductor and then go on our way. Not this particular conductor.
So,
but Lora, why don't you tell us about your role? And I can't even imagine what you're going through right now, trying to keep this boat afloat.
Well, Brett, first of all, I want to thank you and David so much for creating this content. During this time, it breaks all of our hearts that we can't be with our audiences live on stage. We're lost without it. That's what we do. We are in the business of bringing communities together and celebrating the joys of life in real time as a community. And I really am so grateful to the creative spirit that you and David have brought during this time of crisis and ensuring that the Pasadena Symphony still has a voice to our public and to our audience. So first and foremost, major kudos to both of you for helping to be our visionaries in keeping the Pasadena Symphony's voice alive. It's a very big deal. It's very important right now. For me, I have the best. Sorry, go ahead.
So David and I, we're having fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to get to know Brett more. We should all be doing this all the time so that we all know how we think and what we want to achieve together. But yes, for you, Lora, what do you do?
Well, and I'm also very partial to Brett because he is a violist and I am a recovering violist. Although given the lack of my nails, it actually has now given me no excuse not to pick up the instrument and practice now that I don't have nails anymore.
Okay, this is good.
I have the best job in the world. I really am. I'm the luckiest girl to have this job and this job with this orchestra in this community. So talking about what my job is and what I do, my position wears many, many hats throughout the day, throughout the week, depending on the season, depending on the month, depending on the project, which is a space that I really love living in. I love that the nature of what I do is having responsibility and my hands in both the creative realm, the fiduciary realm, the business side, fundraising, marketing. I work with David Lockington, of course, our music director, and Michael Feinstein, our principal pops conductor, at the 30,000-foot view level of defining what we want to be as an organization in terms of our artistic vision. And so we define what that is, and we have been working very diligently on manifesting what those programs look like and how we service the community. And then my job is to take that vision and inspire the staff, our board, our donors to support that and bring it to life. So throughout the year, my role is to galvanize and support the board, both galvanizing and supporting them, and playing their role as being advocates for our organization. We have a fundraising board. We have a board of a mighty 34 very smart individuals, very passionate individuals. We have a staff of 9. So on any given week or day, we're working on our marketing plans, we're working on our artistic planning, we're working on the fundraising, production, of course, and our ticket services. One of the hallmarks of the Pasadena Symphony and Pops experience is that we are known as a very high-level boutique orchestra. And a few tidbits of what audience members usually tell me when they come to either the symphony or the Pops is, oh my goodness, I didn't know this was right in my backyard. I love this. I had no idea Pasadena had this treasure. This is fantastic. I love it. And then they also feel like, because we are nimble and small enough, that they feel that them as an individual, whether they are a ticket buyer or a donor, they feel that everybody at the Pasadena Symphony knows their name. We know all of our customers. You are not calling a call center. We know you. We know your family. We know your story. Many people have been with us for more than 25 years. We really cultivate a community of a family.
Have you heard from some of the regular subscribers, and has the audience reached out to you, and what have you heard?
Yes. Well, as a matter of what is the staff doing right now, we're actually working 3 times harder than normal, actually. In no particular order, we have many scenarios, many contingency plans. We are solving for a problem that we still don't know what specifically the problem is. So we have a lot of scenarios that we're working on. And again, part of the brand of the Pasadena Symphony and one of our hallmarks is our personal touch. And so many of our subscribers have heard from us individually. We're very interested and concerned about how they're doing, how their families are doing. Are they healthy? And so the conversation that I have had is really about checking in with people as friends, the same way you would check in with an old friend or a loved one or a colleague. These are not telemarketing calls. These are very meaningful, real conversations, and they're thrilled to be called. We're all getting cabin fever. And one of the privileges of running the Pasadena Symphony and Pops is, and we take this privilege very, very seriously, is we are a part of people's lives. We're a real part of people's lives. People make their travel schedules around our concerts, and they're missing us. They're missing us so much, and they love hearing from us, and they can't wait to come back. Everybody is going through their own different challenges. I'm knock on wood, happy to say that all of the people that are within our constituency base are healthy and staying home and staying safe. And the amount of support that we have from them is still very strong.
So Reggie was talking about his involvement beginning with his excitement about the educational program of the Pasadena Symphony. And I wonder if, Lora, you could talk a little bit about that and some of the plans that, well, who knows, they may still come to fruition, but we'll see. But tell us a little bit about how the Pasadena Symphony reaches out to young people.
Well, I love this topic so much. I have to take a moment just to give a little bit of context for my own unbridled enthusiasm about our youth orchestra and our educational programs. I, too, am a product of the educational system, the public school educational system in Louisville, Kentucky. And for me, music education was never about necessarily breeding me into being a professional soloist or a virtuoso. For me, music education was always a tool to enhance my overall education and how does one better themselves and get ahead. And for me, I was very fortunate that I was a product of a very strong public school music education, and music was the tool that brought me into the special high schools that I got into, the college that I got into vis-a-vis the scholarship, and then inevitably put me into the field of arts administration. So for me, the subject of music education is something I'm deeply passionate about because I am the person that I am because of my music education. And for the Pasadena Symphony, and this is something that has always been the case, and this is why our music education program is so special. We do not hang our hat on turning out conservatory students. For us, music education is not about the ends, it's about the means of creating a well-rounded, highly educated, fully equipped human being to go out into this world. It's about discipline, it's about teamwork, it's about creative thinking, problem solving, belonging to a community, accountability, and creativity as well. So for us, we are very, very passionate about having music education be the subject that does not get left behind, and how can the Pasadena Symphony be a tool to help supplement and enhance what is going on already in the public school systems and in the school districts, not just necessarily the public school systems. So the Pasadena Symphony Youth Orchestra is made up of an ever-growing number of ensembles. So starting from the most advanced, we have our high school advanced full symphony orchestra, and that is called our Philharmonic. Then we have our middle school full symphony orchestra, which is the symphony. We have middle school band. We have middle school strings. Then we have middle school beginning strings. We have middle school beginning band. And then we have an entire program that is really focused on teaching late elementary school students to learn how to play stringed instruments, because it really, if you don't get to them in elementary school, it's really hard to get them by the time they're in middle school. And one of the things that really brought to light the need to get into the elementary schools is that in order for us to have the participation and have the access and the reach for the maximum amount of student participation in the middle school to start feeding all of these ensembles, you have to have the curiosity, the commitment, the interest starting at the elementary schools. And then coupled with that, we've really taken the time to understand really what does Pasadena Unified School District need. And over the course of the years, we've been able to build a program that has its roots in after-school string programs. And then furthermore, we've been really kind of looking at kind of guerrilla warfare educational programs of getting our coaches to help music teachers in the classrooms during the regular periods of the school days. Because one of the biggest challenges with learning to play an instrument is it's really hard to teach a group of super beginning students to play an instrument in a large group. You really need that. The student to teacher ratio is a real challenge at the Pasadena Unified School District level. So the need that they identified was that they needed more qualified teachers in the classrooms to bring down that student to teacher ratio. And that's where we come in. So that's also been a big philosophy about our education programs. We always start with what the school district needs and build programs around what the district needs, not coming up with in a vacuum what we want to do and then pushing it on to the school district.
So Laura, can you update us then on what's happening with those programs now?
Right. Thank you. Sorry, that was the original question. So what we did immediately when this happened is we went digital. So now thank goodness we have wonderful teachers and conductors. They have come up with lesson plans, weekly lesson plans that are available digitally by Zoom. So the kids' curriculum it's still happening. They're learning every week, which is great for the parents too, because I can only imagine what it's like to manage, teaching from home and all of the things that families are all struggling with right now. So we're thrilled to be a creative outlet for kids while they're home in their family units. So they are still learning from home every single week. In fact, a lot of these lessons have been so well received that the district has decided to make the lessons that we've created for our youth orchestra students available to the entire district. And then what we will also be doing is, as the school year comes to a close in May, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise because I'm sure there'll be a lot more, that'll be a whole other Zoom session for you, but there will be online digital performance platforms so that all the students still have that ending point of performance as part of the pedagogical journey of every school year. Because as we all know, it's one thing to rehearse and learn. In order to have music education count, you have to perform. Yeah.
Well, I did want to say that one of the fantastic aspects of the high school program has been traveling. And this summer would have been a very exciting year for the high school orchestra, coinciding with a big anniversary of Beethoven's birth.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, I'm hoping you will.
Our youth orchestra, we have almost 150 students and accompanying family that were scheduled to go to Vienna in Austria this June. Oh. It has been postponed and rescheduled to next summer of 2021. And it's really, really simple. We're really excited to be celebrating Beethoven's 251st birthday next summer. That's that.
Big one.
That's that. Beethoven 251. That's what it's all about.
That's amazing.
But that's so great that you've been able to postpone it. And there are youth orchestras from all over the world that are going to be congregating in 2021 to celebrate Beethoven. And that's a big part of the experience that the youth orchestra can offer, not just in musical training, but also in meeting people from different cultures from all over the world in one of the most iconic settings ever. So Brett, did you have these opportunities when you were growing up?
I did, in Modesto Youth Symphony, yes. And it really makes all the difference. I wouldn't be here without that.
Yeah.
You're doing the Lord's work. It's important. It's very important.
So Reggie, what are your violin plans?
My violin plans?
Everyone should be practicing quarantine.
Spare everyone from my violin. That's right.
See, I'm offering this as a threat. A few years ago, I composed a piece for two of our prior board presidents, and I performed with them a flute duet with cello. And so here I am. This is an offer. If Brett on viola and Lora on viola and Reggie on violin would like to perform with me, I'm sure I could come up with some little ditty.
You really don't want to trust me on that one. I was never great. I was there because I loved it, and I was no threat to anyone. Lora and Brett, and when you had Diane, they were exceptional players. I was never.
Reggie, don't throw me in that group. That is a red line. That is a hard no.
But now, Lora, you do have to confess, you just recently told me that you did pick up your viola. There were a few years ago that I forced you to play a scale, and I think you left it until recently to pick it up again. So tell us about that, Lora. What on earth is going on?
Well, I just think I should stop talking to you because I can't. I don't know. I can't really talk about that.
Now, come on, don't get all shy.
No, there's nothing to say. Nothing public to say. Nothing for the public. No.
You haven't picked it up again.
David, people talk to the ones that should be practicing aren't, and then the ones that hadn't been practicing or weren't professional bring it out. It's really amazing.
Well, I did pick it up. I did pick it up, and I worked on some scales. It took me probably 20 minutes to tune it, which is silly.
That's normal.
Is that a viola joke?
Totally normal.
You're such a nice man, Brett.
I know. Violist to violist. No, I didn't go above third position, and I kept it to the C.
Also normal. There's no problem here so far.
But I felt quite brave because I did use my fourth finger.
Oh.
But that's about it. I kind of wanted to prove that I could. I was very curious to see if I could even begin to contemplate ever playing again. And I will say that there was muscle memory there, but it's probably going to take a year.
Yeah. No, I don't think it'll take that long. I think within 3 weeks, you would have broken down the tissue and built it up again, and everything will be. I tell you, I had an experience a number of years ago. This was in the 90s when I was leaving an orchestra, and they asked me if I would do a Scottish dance, which I did when I was a kid. So after about 25 years of not doing a sword dance, I looked up a video of the latest champion Scottish sword dancer, and I copied the dance. And because I was stronger and I had the muscle memory, I was able to put this together really in a few weeks. And it was better than when I was a kid, as I said, because I was stronger and probably, hopefully, a little smarter. So I have every faith, Lora, that you could do it in a few weeks if you really wanted to apply your massive intellect and determination and all the skills that you learned as a young violist. You could reapply them now and learn again.
I'm happy to help, and we have a video right here. This could all be documented.
You know what, David? I'm going to spend all of that time and effort and creative thought in my head to figure out how I can punish you for putting this on the air today.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm going to be spending my time doing. How can I...
David is pretty much embarrassing us and making us feel pretty inadequate as he talks about his ability to dance again.
Well, please don't ask me about math.
Now, I have done yoga with David because one of my big passions is sculpt yoga. And I think it was last fall or so, I did drag him to a sculpt yoga studio. And I was so angry because the regular teacher wasn't there. And the regular teacher was she's a wonderful teacher, and she always has great music. And David and I do share a peculiarity that we are easily annoyed with certain kinds of music. And David is probably more sensitive than I am, but I'm still pretty high on the spectrum of being sensitive to annoying music. And this particular random Sunday, this teacher played the music so loudly. It was such horrible music. It was actually painful. And I haven't been able to get him to come back, but he was a trooper, and we both killed it. So I'll get you back to the yoga studio, David.
I think I was killed, but you killed it.
But see how I just pivoted, and now it's like back on you on what you're going to do?
Oh,
very good, Laura. Very good.
Well,
Lora,
okay.
Years ago, I had a string trio when I was in college, and we would play at a gym in West LA for the yoga class. Super soft, live string trio. Is that the most LA thing ever?
Yeah. Yeah. And David has played in yoga classes before. In fact, maybe that's one of the things we should do. We should have David play for like a Zoom yoga class as one of the sessions. See, I just keep thinking of things for you to do.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
For bringing me on this program. I'm going to have a long to-do list for you before this.
Well, thanks so much for spending the time talking about what you do so eloquently. And thank you again, Brett, for getting all of us together. It was, as I have to mirror Laura's words, that it was your brainchild that got us onto this Zoom platform. So pleasure. Thanks to everybody, and we'll look forward to another session in just a few days.
Yes, with instruments maybe.
Wonderful.
Yes, your other guests on. When you have your guests on, they will absolutely have beautiful instruments to play for you.
But thanks you two for everything you've done and keeping this group going. I mean, it's really noble and incredible.
Well, we can't wait to get back on stage. Cannot wait.
All right. Signing off. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.